So my guest today is Jennifer Etter and Susan. Susan, how you say your last name?
Mobley.
Susan Mobley. They are the host and co-host of Find Her Seat. We appreciate you coming to the show. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for making the drive. And thanks for being on Make Shit Happen show. Make shit happen! You like that?
That's awesome. I love that.
So let's talk about it. First of all, thanks for connecting me.
Yes.
And thanks for connecting with me. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
And I saw your thing, like your podcast, Find Her Seat on LinkedIn. I'm like, wow, this is great. So I started looking at it. I'm like, empowering women, and I mean, I really love that. I love finding the women's seat on on the right table, on the right, bring her to the right platform, and I love it. I have 2 daughters. So, I want to live in that world where women can have a voice.
Right.
They're not oppressed, or they don't need a man to, do something for them. I mean, it's very important for me personally.
Yes.
So that's why when I saw Find Her Seat, I looked at it and I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
We agree.
Part of it too is not only women finding their seat, because we're evolving as a society, and so many women, they don't realize that they've already found their seat. So we say, like, the stay-at-home mom is not just the stay-at-home mom. You found your seat at your table.
Exactly.
And to just be empowered wherever you are.
I had a guest on a previous show, and she said it almost exact like that. She's like, mom is not just stay-at-home mom. She's raising and nurturing that kid that can turn around and be the next president.
That's right.
Or she can raise a kid who can be a person that is not desired in the society. It's all about how the mom raises that kid. So it is her seed. It's her job to raise that man that can be the next president or the next senator or the next ball player or the next businessman or the next podcast host. Like, make shit happen.
That's right. We don't want women to feel like, when they say just a stay-at-home mom, like they can't be anything but stay-at-home mom. Like, we want them to realize that you can do multiple things. You can be stay-at-home mom. You can be the podcaster. You can, run a corporation. You can do all of these things. You don't have to pick and choose. You really can do everything. And although you might, have to balance it out.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
not like you're limited at any point. And we're trying to show, not just women, but our own children, that you really can do anything that you want to do. And don't limit yourself just because you have this idea of what your role is supposed to be in life. I mean, I've reinvented myself so many times. I've, been a real estate broker. I've run companies. I've done network marketing. I've done the stay-at-home mom. Yes. And, there's no reason that just because that's what I did at that moment, that's what I'm going to have to do forever.
So how many kids do you have, Susan?
I have 2. So I have a son who's 14 and then a daughter who's 11.
And what about you, Jennifer?
I have 2 girls, a 15-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Okay. Well, your kids are close in age.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So did y'all meet through your kids? Did y'all?
No. Literally, it was business. We were with a company, and we were on the same team, and we were the only ones that were consistently showing up. And so I noticed this tall woman showing up as well. So we know, okay, we had the same work ethic. But we weren't necessarily friends. And I decided to join a different company, and she, being the businesswoman, heard about it, wanted to hear more about the pay plan, decided to join me. And then they kept putting us together.
Really? So you have this show, Find Her Seat podcast, that you broadcast live every Tuesday?
Yes. So every
on
Tuesday,
Facebook.
and now we've added Thursday because we actually were getting so backed up on guests that we had to add in a second day of the week to have the show. So it's a good problem to have.
Congratulations. How long is the show for?
So the actual duration is usually about 30 minutes for the show.
Okay.
And so we do that on, like I said, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We do the live on Facebook, and then we put the feed out for the podcasts from our live shows.
Okay. So, and the podcast is available on all platforms, I'm assuming?
Yes, you literally Google Find Her Seat, and you can find us anywhere. Spotify, iTunes, iHeart.
You name it, we're out there.
So first of all, how did you come up with the name Find Her Seat?
So when we would run our meetings, it was one of the things that I would say a lot, because that was what I found when I started to create a better income for myself. I mean, I'm married, but I wanted to be a little bit more equal. And so when I started to create an income, I literally felt like I had found my seat. I had a say at whatever we did financially. And so that's what it was part of my spiel was, helping other women find their seat at the table. And it just stuck because it really, it had a lot of meaning.
It resonated with people. I mean, even from when we would do meetings with our network marketing company, then people would hear that and you could just kind of see like they'd perk up like, oh yeah, I want to find my seat too. And so we went through a list of probably 5 or 10 names and we just kept coming back to find her seat. And we're like,
I love the
perfect.
name. It's perfect.
It was
is
everything
perfect.
that we wanted. I mean, it encompassed everything. It was easy and quick.
So both of you agreed on the name then.
We
Oh
did.
yeah.
So now how did you think about like, okay, you know what, I want to do a podcast?
So literally that happened. I think that was just like, God wink. We got together, had a meeting. We knew we wanted to do a show. There's something amazing about Susan. There's no like, I don't know. It's so crazy. Susan will come up with an idea and she's like, I'm going to get a hold of this network and I'm going to get a hold of that radio station. I'm like, okie dokie. And so she was going to reach out to Bravo. We didn't know what it was going to actually look like. We just knew it was going to be female empowerment. And literally within 5 days, 2 different people said to me, hey, have you ever thought about doing a podcast? And I literally had never heard of it. I had never listened to a podcast. And so when the second person said it within 5 days, I was like, okay, I'm listening.
That's a sign.
Yeah, I'm listening. And he just so happened his good friend was starting a 8-week course. And so I signed us up. I got a hold of Susan and said, guess what? This is what we're doing.
Yeah, she called me up and was like, by the way, we're doing an 8-week podcast course. I'm like, oh, okay, let's do that.
So that's awesome. So now y'all both are an expert on podcasts.
Oh, well,
we're trying.
So when did you officially launch the podcast channel?
In April.
In April of 2019.
Yes.
Perfect.
So a lot of people sometimes are a little surprised that we've only been doing it since April, because, in the beginning, it's a lot of, begging or asking people that we know that are doing things to be guests on our show.
To be on the guest.
But really after about a month or so, we started getting a lot of referrals from other people that heard what we were doing and they would have a friend of a friend that they thought would be a great fit for the show. And then through LinkedIn, through social media, we would have different people reaching out to us. And so it started to get to the point where we really were starting to have people, get on a wait list to be on the show.
Actually, I think it was only we were only doing it about a month when CW got a hold of us and asked us to be on their morning show.
Okay.
And I think after that, people kind of took us a little bit more seriously.
So tell me about the CW morning show.
So they've got over at CW 39 in Houston, they've got the Morning Dose.
Right,
So it's their
right,
morning show.
right.
And so again, they found us through LinkedIn and reached out to us and they wanted to talk
So both of you were guests on that thing?
So we're on there talking about women that had started a podcast.
Okay.
And it was exciting. I mean, I think even for us, it kind of legitimized what we were doing.
So now you're doing it twice a week.
Yes.
The show lasts for 30 to 40 minutes?
Right.
Yes. Approximately.
Approximately. Well, that's awesome. Now tell me, Bravo, is Bravo still on the table?
Oh, yeah. Everything's on the table.
Everything's on the
Everything's
table.
So
We've
the
got
ultimate
a big table.
So the ultimate goal is to be on have a TV show.
You know what? Actually, I mean, the ultimate goal could be the TV show, but I've told Susan many times that I envision us having our own network. Like that, like we're big thinkers.
So right now you sign. Hey, listen, if you don't think big or you don't dream big,
Who's
you never
gonna
get
think
big,
for
right?
us, right?
Yeah, and you never get big.
That's
No.
right.
So you gotta shoot for the sky, and I mean, see where you land at.
But we definitely would be, I think TV is something that we both feel comfortable with. And then, like Jennifer said, we didn't start out as friends, but we've become
Right.
really close friends.
There's so many similarities. It's crazy.
It is. And it's like we complement each other so well. I mean, the things that I lack, she doesn't, and vice versa. We travel well together. I mean,
We like the same foods.
Yes.
Where have y'all traveled at?
Oh, goodness.
gosh. New York,
Las Vegas, Bahamas, Bermuda,
A
Dallas.
lot of girls trip or family trips?
Business trips?
Business trips.
Business trips.
All business. So either we've earned the trips through our company or we've had to take them for meetings and that type of thing. And it just usually ends up that we end up traveling together. We split meals everywhere we go.
That's awesome.
We end up showing up. We're always, even today, she
Yeah.
opens up the door and we're like coordinating.
We
it just,
literally laugh every single time because I open the door and we're like, of course, we're
so
coordinated.
it's just we definitely have this connection that we it feeds, and I think it comes across when we do the lives. So I think for us, it's easy to think of doing a show.
And I think y'all are very fortunate to find that connection because
yeah.
not a lot of people ever find it or have somebody in
Right.
common. So you know what? Congratulations
Thank
for
you.
that. So let's talk about that. Jennifer, you've written a book before.
I did. I wrote this book. It's called Crave by J.B. Etter, and it literally started off with dreams. So if you read the book, there's a lot of dreams in that book, and those are literally dreams that I was having. So you might be scared, but every
Like
night,
give us an example of a dream. That's in the
goodness.
book.
That's in the book.
Yeah.
Let's see. So Claire is the name of the main character, and she finds herself underneath a street lamp, and she's cold and realizes that she's naked, and so she starts walking and finds her way to there's a brick wall, and she's trying to keep herself warm, and then the man of her dreams, which is the man that keeps showing up in her dreams, shows up, and they're getting hot and heavy, and the next thing she knows, he's turned into 1,000 snakes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's
It's the
Thousand
deep
snakes.
It's the deep thinking of Jennifer.
wow. So what do we call this book classifies what kind of genre?
It's a fantasy romance.
Fantasy romance. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Have you ever written a book, Susan?
I have not yet,
Okay.
but
Is
Jennifer
book in the future?
book is definitely in the future. Jennifer and I have actually wanted to collaborate
Oh,
and do
awesome.
some kind of, based sort of what we're doing through Find Her Seat, being able to give, either through journaling. We're big on, manifesting and, putting down your thoughts and putting it out there in a way that, synchronized, that we're going to help people do that through journaling, as well as just some of what we've done, through Find Her Seat and showing women different stories of people that we've had on our show and what they've done through their empowerment.
So both of you are going to collaborate on this book.
Mm-hmm.
And is it like you said, there's I think we were talking about a book earlier, like Subtle Art of Not Giving a
Right.
Right.
So it has different chapters, different totally different unrelated stuff, and they put it all together in a book. Is it going to be something like that context?
So it is going to be something like that, where we're giving suggestions, prompts for writing, and then we're also going to have some storytelling. So it's either going to be people that have been on our show that, one of them will be what letter would you write to your 14-year-old self?
Gotcha.
What do you need to tell yourself? Just basically different things like that. And it's I think it's going to be great.
I think so too. I love it. And whenever you do it, please let me know so I can go buy a
course.
copy.
Heck yeah.
Of course. Give it to your daughters.
Definitely. So let's talk about some of your early life. Let's start with you, Jennifer.
Okay. So early life, raised by a single mom. I was in a lot of things. I was in theater and dancing and singing and all of it. And, to be honest, I moved out when I was 16 and started a life of my own. Lived on a sailboat. I was out basically I had this idea that I needed to experience as much as I could because I knew one day I was going to write something. And so I needed some experience. And so I had when you're out that young, you stumble a lot.
Is that scary?
Not for me. But I'm a different kind of person, I guess. I don't have a whole lot of fear, but it was dark at times, and I definitely experienced a lot. I wouldn't want my daughters to do it, but I came out really strong.
You would want to shelter them.
I do shelter them. It's horrible. I think to myself, oh, I'm cutting their wings off, but they are both very strong, intelligent girls. So
yes. Raising girls is hard.
It's different.
Yeah.
Both my girls are different. So I've got one who's very dramatic and ethereal and, all of those things. And then I've got another one and she's GT and all those things. And then the other one, she's more earthy. She's definitely my girl. We think a lot alike. And she's dyslexic. So they each have their own struggles and completely different personalities.
What about you?
So I'm a native Houstonian, and I was born and raised here. And my parents, I had the baby of 4, and I grew up here. And then I went to UT. For me, my dad's a physician, and my mom ended up going to law school when I was in junior high. So education was key in our family. You could do anything you wanted to do, but you better graduate from college. So I went to UT, and then I actually got scouted and did modeling professionally for a little bit on the agreement that I would go back and finish college. So I did that, came back, finished college here. And then I was my degree's in education, but I never actually taught outside of the training that I had in college.
Okay.
I think for me, I just always have had an entrepreneurial spirit, and my parents definitely fostered that side of it as, so for me, it was a natural progression to go and get my real estate broker's license. My husband at the time, we started an online apartment locating business. We had been in the domain industry as well. So for me, it was definitely about always having different businesses going on at any given time. The technical side of it was always fun for me as well. So for Jennifer and I, we were a good match because she wasn't as techie as I was. And so we would coordinate that. But, I think it was important that my parents fostered all of that. And I'm definitely doing that with my kids as well. My son's very entrepreneurial. My daughter, she's wanting to have YouTube channels and things like that when she sees our show on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Her little friends all watch our podcast and ask each week, like, what's the show about this week? So I think it's, even though that Jennifer and I may have come up differently, there's things that overlap that are so similar. Mm-hmm. And again, it's like, areas that I may have not understood, I've been able to see through Jennifer's eyes and vice versa. And I think it's like, there's things that I take away from her life experiences that I'm, so proud of her and everything that she's done. She could have gone through the life that she went through and not made herself the way she has. Definitely. And so I think that, getting to be able to both be native Houstonians, we understand that we're rare to find a native Houstonian, let alone be together. I always kind of laugh like our birthdays are just a few days apart.
So Jennifer, are you Houston raised?
I am.
So you're a native Houstonian also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we
From A-Leaf.
Yeah, so.
Me too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll have to talk about that.
So,
I went to Hastings.
I did too.
Yeah?
Hastings South.
Me too. Hastings South.
What year did you graduate?
I graduated. Let's talk about that. And then, so you finished school at U of H? Or you said you came
yes,
here?
So I went
school?
to UT, and then I came and finished at U of H, actually Clear Lake.
Okay.
And finished out there, and then, but I never actually taught outside of having to do my student teaching and that type of thing. But I think for me, it was just like I needed to always grow beyond what someone confined me to.
Awesome.
So through doing my own real estate business or whatever it might have been, even through network marketing, you control if your team's, going to be of 5 people or 5,000 people based on the work that you put into it. And same with our podcast, we could just do it once a month and just kind of halfway do it. But, we don't do that.
Yeah. And then, so I'm assuming you grew up in Clear Lake.
No, funny thing is I lived in Katy when I went to U of H, Clear Lake. Talk about dedication to finishing my degree.
Wow.
Is driving to Clear Lake from Katy. So I grew up in Memorial.
Okay.
And then when I got married in 99, I moved out to Katy.
Got it. So you had this apartment deal, the apartment finder. Mm-hmm. And so you don't have it no more. You don't practice.
No, so I don't do any of my real estate anymore. I keep my license just to have it. Okay. But
so tell me some of the new adventures y'all are having. You said you have the same company. Are y'all in?
Yes.
Okay.
Valentis is the name of the company that we're in. It's really amazing company. It's only 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It's in 95 countries, but it's just now coming into the United States. It's health and wellness, which is right up our alley. I mean, I was a yoga instructor. She's always been, into diet and health. And we're new to it, but we're not new to network marketing. And so it's been really exciting, actually.
So you are a yoga instructor also?
I'm a certified yoga instructor.
How come you didn't tell us that?
Well, how many things do you want to know?
We wear many hats,
Yeah, I see that. So tell me about this yoga, like you being a yoga instructor.
Yeah.
How did that, when did you get certified?
Sir, I worked at the Houston City Club.
Okay.
I was in membership. And I was an avid runner. I would run the 3 to 6 miles a day, Memorial, all of that. My back went out and I couldn't run anymore, got really depressed. And they had yoga classes going on during my lunch break. Mm-hmm. So I decided to go ahead and start it. within 2 weeks, my back felt better, and I decided this is something I want to pursue. And I loved what it did for me psychologically and emotionally, because I always say yoga were my first steps of healing. Like that was where my life started turning around. And so it was within a few months I decided to get certified. I had a actually very lengthy certification. I know some people go for like a weekend. Mine was months long. And became a yoga instructor, and then I guess within a year decided I was going to do it full time, and that's what I was doing when I met my husband.
And the reason why I asked yoga is like I've been thinking about doing yoga, and I run a lot. So like I run 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
Sometimes 3 miles, sometimes 6 miles.
Yeah.
But lately, like I feel like my back does hurt.
Right.
Yes.
I have to stretch longer.
Yoga helps. I think had I been doing the yoga while I was running, maybe things wouldn't have gone off. But I'm like I have a little old lady back, so I'm not so sure about that.
So I think that's one thing. I mean, you've probably seen me move in this chair a couple of times already, and like so that's something I've been thinking about. Like maybe I need to do yoga or something, Pilates or something like that. I love running. It just I don't know. It's something about running. Just when I'm running for that 40 minutes or 1 hour is just like nothing else exists. You know, just the road.
I miss it. We talk about it a lot.
Jennifer and I were just talking about last week because I've had 2 spinal fusion surgeries. So there's no running in my life anymore. And I used to run every single day. We're both saying it's so nice, when you go on vacation or something, like all you need is your tennis shoes and you can go and explore the area you're in and run.
I can't believe you said that. So everywhere I go, any new city or anywhere I go, I just go run.
Yes.
And I'll just like this last year, went to Scottsdale, ran 6 miles over there, just walk,
Right.
Did the San Diego thing.
Yep.
Went to Panama Panama, the country, did the same thing. I went to Colombia last year, did the same thing over there. Where else have I gone? Several other places,
Right.
but that's what I do. And I mean, I just feel like I feel connected,
Exactly.
and it's just so cool. I mean, I don't have to walk. I'm running, so I'm seeing everything, and I run in the morning, so
Right.
the air is fresh. It's just so much
Not too
nicer,
hot.
not too hot.
I love that you said you felt connected by running, because when we travel, there's, other people will take the buses and do all the things. And we like to have our feet on the ground because we feel more connected to the city we're in. I love that.
Yeah. And so that's something we have in common.
Yes.
Another thing we have in common.
Yeah. But my back has not gone out yet. Knock on
You
wood.
may not be as old.
So, I know, Jennifer, also I read about you. Carlos did some research over here for you.
Some intel.
He said that you were affected by heart disease.
I do. I have, it's basically, it's what's called PVCs. It's premature ventricular contractions. So I literally have my own little rhythm. So where everybody else's heart may say lub dub, mine's like lub dub dub dub.
Okay.
Dub dub.
So it's still you still have that condition.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't think it's ever going to go away. I mean, when I first noticed it, my second daughter was a baby and we were on vacation, and it can be a little scary because it feels like your heart is flip-flopping in your chest and then you don't feel anything.
Really?
And that's literally what happens. So my blood pressure is low because my heart doesn't necessarily beat at a regular beat. So when it does do that skip or when it does do the flop around, my blood pressure drops. And so I drove myself to the ER and thinking, they're going to hook me up. But I got to admit it, I didn't realize it was that big a deal. And so that's when they told me I have PVCs.
So now, have y'all both traveled somewhere and like her blood pressure goes down or something? Have you?
No, knock on wood for that too.
Okay.
She's stayed healthy, but it's been kind of, eye-opening because with her heart problems, it gave us an opportunity with the American Heart Association.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we are actually both members of the Guild Committee for the American Heart Association, and then we're also on the committee for the Shop with a Heart card. So it's a shopping card that they do every year to help raise money. But it was, I know that Jennifer and I, we went to a meeting at Tootsie's, and there was a young lady there, and I say young because she was early 30s.
No, I think she was in her 20s. She was like 26.
Yeah, and she had
mid-20s.
Yes, and she had just left the hospital maybe a week prior to this event, and having suffered from, I don't know if it was a massive heart attack.
It was a heart attack.
It was something like catastrophic.
At 26.
Yes.
At 26.
Yes.
Overweight.
No, not
no,
really.
No,
I mean,
nothing. It wasn't all the normal things that you think would be, you know, someone that should be having that type of issue at that age. So I think for me, it definitely opened up my eyes to, you know, and you don't realize how much women suffer from heart attacks because men get spotlighted.
Exactly. I read this heart attack thing, and I mean, you know, it hits home to me because my father passed away from a heart attack.
Right.
So I mean, you know, when I saw that, I'm like, I got to ask you that question about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you do that heart ball every year?
Yes. And
It's in February, right?
yes,
Yeah.
big
I think
deal.
it's right around Valentine's Day. Or something.
that's right.
I want to say that it is, is it February 13th this
Yeah,
year?
I think it's right by,
Yeah.
it's heart ball. So right, Valentine's. I've
Yes.
donated a couple of times.
Oh.
They send me email all the time. Like,
Well, now you've got members here that you can
okay.
You should become a sponsor.
exactly.
Yeah, I've sponsored. I think it was 2012 or 2013, or 2013 and 2014. I don't remember.
Yeah. So
Which,
we're
it was 2 years consecutive.
yeah.
that I
So
did.
we're on part of the committee that helps get sponsors and
Awesome.
goes around for, like I said, the shop with a heart card.
Well, now that I said something, I'm
You're
sure
on
y'all
spot.
gonna be in touch with me. I volunteered myself. I sound like it, huh? So you do the Heart Ball Foundation. And, I mean, the
Heart
gala,
Association.
yeah.
Yes.
And so that's awesome. So tell me, also Jennifer, you're a therapist,
Yes, I'm what you call a biofield therapist.
okay?
And yoga led me to that. And so basically what I do is I look for patterns in somebody's life, and I can take those patterns, name what that pattern is, and something that somebody can gain when they're a child. So like even if you're a baby and you're crying and crying and crying because you're hungry and nobody feeds you, well, that literally creates a pattern of I'm not worthy, you know, of food. I'm not worthy of nutrients. And that will begin to evolve. And as you become an adult, you'll have all these things that kind of are roadblocks, and you don't know why you keep hitting these roadblocks, but it's literally an old pattern. And so I find those patterns, turn them around, and create new ones.
So here, let me ask you a question now. Let's put her to a test. What do you
Go
think?
ahead. Let me do the test.
So, and you know, I'm in furniture retail business. I've been on retail floor. I've been salesman, all this stuff. So I see, I see a lot of things. I'm a student. I watch behaviors and stuff.
Right.
So what about parents? And I mean, it's not only my store. I've seen them around. You go to restaurants, stuff like that. What about when parents empower their kids, or they think they're doing them a favor? Let's say a 2-year-old kid, right? Baby don't know. Baby don't know anything.
Right.
Okay. And they want a toy, okay, or they want to pick up anything, and the mom says no, and the baby screams, and the mom gives it to them.
Okay.
What happened? What kind of pattern are we developing?
So right there, literally though, if you're looking at a 2-year-old, so you have to understand at that age, especially 2.
2 or 3, let's just say.
Yeah, still at that age, they're literally going from one stage to the next. So they're going from a stage where maybe things look magical into a stage of learning rules and guidelines. And this is society. And we use a fork when we eat, and we use a spoon, and we don't do this, and we don't throw. So that is a very tough age, because they're going from freedom to having to be forced into societal roles. And so all their imaginary friends go away. All these other ways of being go away. So it's very frustrating for a 2-year-old. So they're learning new boundaries, and they're also pushing against boundaries. They also can't really understand what to do with these emotions that they're feeling. So it might feel like rejection, or it might feel like who knows what, right? They're taking this away from me. They're taking power away from me. And it's very frustrating. And so it's the pattern, giving a child boundaries. That's good. They need strong boundaries. There's nothing wrong with that. If the mother were to always let them have it, then yeah, that's not creating good boundaries.
That's not okay. So if the baby screams and the mother just gives it to them, is the mother doing the baby a favor or not a favor?
No, the
No.
mother is not doing the baby.
What do
a
you think about
favor.
that, Susan?
I'd say no.
No.
Biofield therapist or not, no.
Right.
So what about I've seen moms where, same thing, little children, I mean, and they get frustrated, and sometimes the babies like start hitting
Right.
and the moms don't say nothing. What about that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think
Because
you're
they're
seeing them
out in there,
public.
and they're in
You're-
public.
Yeah,
and they also embarrassed and they can't really do anything because nowadays we got these camera phones
Yes.
and they don't want to go to jail.
I know. Well, I always let my girls know that, I may not respond in the way that is going to be big when we're in public, but I promise you when we get home, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I think it's important to, like Jennifer said, you've got to give those boundaries no matter, what age they're at. If not, you're going to get run over by them.
So Susan, you have 2 kids.
I do.
Do you believe in punishing the kids?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, of course, my children
Now,
are
when
perfect.
I say punishing the kids, I mean spanking them.
I was never a spanker. I wasn't. I think one thing is every parent knows their child and they know what they respond to. For me, my kids were big responders to taking things away. And then, certain things that work with my son wouldn't work with my daughter and vice versa. So I think it really depends on your child. Certain kids are going to maybe respond to a spanking that another child wouldn't. For me, my kids were big on take things away. Or like my daughter, if I would tell her that hurt my heart, then that would really
The
get
guilty.
her.
What about you, Jennifer?
Well, my first daughter, everybody thought I was this magical mom, and I did too. I also thought it was magical because she was just so easy, and so all I had to do was just do this.
Look at her.
And
By the way,
I was
that
doing the counting.
Yeah.
And so all I had to get to was
you're
the
looking
one.
at me and doing the counting. I'm
Are
scared.
you scared?
See, it works.
Yeah, I just have to give him the look.
So-
but not the second one. The second one's my wild child, and it sometimes comes to pops on the butt.
So